What year is it?
2013.
Audi what?
A6 Quattro.
We're gonna change the broken coil spring in here. And coil spring's kind of confusing on this. There's same year, there's 6 different types. It's got paint marks on it, so you have to match up your paint marks. And so our customer actually found a used set.
Customer's really Brian.
Yeah, really Brian.
It's not really a customer.
He's got the same stripe package here, and he got a good deal on the used set of springs. These springs are not very thick. They're not like a Ford, right? But we're gonna disconnect some suspension parts to try and lower this down and do it safely. But we're gonna disconnect the shock for sure. It looks like we're gonna disconnect this 10mm up here to try and get a little slack on our cables. We're trying to get the low control arm to come down a lot more. And we got to stabilize the link here. That he bought some new links, so we're gonna change this out anyway. So we're gonna get some tools together. We're gonna disconnect the shock, disconnect the link. And over here we have a tracking arm on this side that we're gonna remove the tracking arm. And by removing these 3 components, we're gonna see how much slack we have down. This coil spring is, I think we're gonna be able to slide it back into place. So let's get these 3 pivot points down and we'll see where we end up. Okay, so we have a little bit of tension underneath the lower control arm, just barely, okay? And we're gonna start taking this arm off and we're gonna disconnect the shock and stuff in the link. So we got a 17 over here for this, and we're gonna slip this one off. 18, excuse me, 18. Okay, all right, so let's go get the shock. The shock's a 21. It's got a plastic shield in here, so we gotta kind of bang it in a little bit. Got the link, we'll grab this one next.
Steve, what drawer?
The other side, the other top drawer. No, the other toolbox, Brian. Bought new links for it, so it won't be an issue. We'll lower it down. It looks like we're going to have to get the strut out of the way to get the bolt for the linkage, but I think once we loosen this up and lower the arm down, we'll have a little bit of play. We also want to get a 10mm because we're going to lower this down and see how far it goes, but I think this is going to pull on this, so we're going to take this one Torx bit off right here and unplug this connector for the speed sensor and then see if we can gain some more slack.
Yeah, it's coming. Use the gun on the wrist?
Yeah.
We will never seize this again.
What size is this?
T30.
T30?
Yeah, so T30, and we're gonna disconnect this little electrical connector here. I'm gonna try to, let me get a little tool for that. Curious to see how far the suspension comes down. I don't want to have to lower the whole rear cradle on this thing. So
if we can help it.
Yeah. Okay, we just pushed in on this little hole right here, and it pushed in on the tab. I just got that unplugged. So we got this unplugged now. Now we're gonna come over, and so we've got the shock, the link, and the track bar disconnected over here. So let's see, hopefully this thing's gonna come down. Ain't a lot of weight on it.
You get a pry bar?
Well, yeah. So it's hanging us up.
Underneath this arm, let's see if we can get some leverage with that. Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll just, it's almost like it's just freaking dangling.
It is almost, but the problem is
Yeah.
the replacement spring.
It's gonna be bigger.
It's like the difference between me having a haircut and not having a haircut.
Yeah, I get it. Jeeps are easy to put springs in.
Yeah, you just wait for them to rust out.
You go, boing, 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 boing. So this spring was broken, so it's gonna be a little bit shorter, so we're able to worm it out that way.
And it actually bent that a little, so I'll flatten that out.
Yeah.
There's also a rubber base over here. If you look at this one that was falling out of the car, and we grabbed it before.
Okay.
This is like the rubber base that it sits on, and Brian grabbed it before we lost it on the road.
Yep.
So he's gonna straighten out the bracket right now. We'll get the base in here, and then we're gonna try and dry fit the spring up, and we will come back to you. Oh, he's got the difference in the two springs here.
Yeah.
So this one has one more boingy wingy in it than this one.
One boogie woogie.
But we might luck out, but we probably won't.
But looking at the suspension over here, once we disconnected those three things, look how much room we have.
Yeah, get a little bit of play.
And I'm hitting the jack right now. If I pull the jack out, we're gonna go, even lower. So we're hoping the spring just slides right in. We're gonna put a little bit of grease on the top of the spring where it meets the pocket and on the bottom where it rides. So if it's dry on the rubber there, you'll get like a creaking, squeaking noise possibly. So just putting a thin coat of grease on it will eliminate that. And we'll never seize and clean all our bolts up.
The inside of that one.
I know, but is it welded?
No. Because I got the replacement now.
What size is this?
This is a 16 that we got on here.
I'll get it.
Looks like a 16 on the other side. Yeah, crack loose. We're gonna disconnect the other bottom one because this is under pressure right now. Oh, I'm going around one. Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah. Steve, you are going down the wrong path.
Bad man, huh? Looks like it's slow going, huh?
Well, once you get to the end, it starts teeter-tottering.
Yeah, so take that one out. We'll be back in a second.
Like this. All right, so we get this one set up. Line it up with the hole here. There we go.
Hang it there for a second.
Brian's gonna catch the bolt, the nut, excuse me.
With the reach around.
And we'll get the short stubby gear wrench. I'll hold this side with the wrench. Okay. All right. I'm gonna tighten that 16 up over there. If you have long arms, you can do this yourself.
We're just helping Steve because he's elderly.
Last I knew, this was Brian's car, not mine. So who's helping who here? Anyway, Brian brought donuts though, so I guess he helped us.
Don't tell your friends. And a tech tip, if you're using manual tools in the garage, if you're a righty, like I am, and you do tricks like that, it's best to use your right hand to get the maximum strength.
That's a tech tip.
Yeah.
Technically.
Thanks.
So once we get this tight, Brian doesn't want it completely tight yet, so that we'll have a little wiggle room with the strut. With the new link to get it lined up with the control arm. So after we get this snug a little bit, we're gonna go after getting that coil spring in. We want to get that done, and then we'll get the coil spring done, and then we'll come back and we'll just snug up the top bolts for the links. So, little jury rig going on here. We got a couple of spring compressors. We're gonna just suck this down a little bit, and Ryan's got some fancy ratchet straps on here, and we're about an inch short from getting this thing into the housing. So we're gonna suck this down a little bit, and he's gonna tighten his ratchet straps up because he's got that big plastic cover underneath the bottom of the spring, so you can't leave the spring tool in there. So it makes it a little difficult. So we're gonna use these ratchet straps and get this sunk in there, and it just takes a little technique to tighten it up and work with it on both ends here. So we'll suck it down, and then we'll compare it to the other spring. And We tried dry fitting it in there, and it didn't seem like it wants to go.
That's good.
So we're gonna tighten the other side a little bit more and, you know, stand it up and see where it is as far as our distance is compared to the broken spring here. And then we'll take these off and we'll go over and sneak this thing in.
Yeah, these aren't cheap ratchet straps. They're halfway decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were made in China and they were bought on Amazon. But they're the good China Amazons. I think we're good.
Okay, tighten up a
Because,
little more.
no, so...
I think people know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Without saying it.
Yeah, and the ratchet straps with the spring tension on there, it does pull it down a little more. So let's do our comparison. Here's the top and the bottom. Oh, Jesus, we got this thing easy.
All right.
All right, so we're going to take
It's
these
not in
off
yet,
now.
Steve.
We're going to take these off now.
Let's
okay?
get it over there and position it.
Yeah.
Maybe we can take them off in position.
Yeah, let's go take a look.
I'm clocking right about here. Oh, fuck.
There we go.
Brian didn't want to put any grease on it.
Okay. Yep.
See, if he had some grease on it, it would twist easier right now, but no.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to twist. It's right at the end of the... There you go. Yeah. Can you see the flashlight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, put a little, pull down a little. Yeah. It's good. I got that up. Yep. Pull down a little. Shit. That up.
Now we're collapsing the spring now. We should make it so that we have tension coming off of the ratchet straps so that you can release them.
That's good, Steve.
Yeah, it should be fine.
Okay.
See, the plastic boot here is kind of in the way of one of the straps, which kind of sucks, but Brian's gonna get his hand in there and get it out. The other one's in a pretty good position. I tried to take that one off last, Brian, but
This,
yeah, it probably doesn't make a difference, right?
I mean, they're
You
both
got the
loose,
spring,
so
yeah.
I'm hoping to slide the other one up into this position.
Oh, okay. So he wants to slide the strap around after he gets the first one off. Now we got one off.
There you go.
All right. I thought we were going to be able to do this without the ratchet strap, but man,
It's tight.
even with the stuff disconnected, that we took the 3 arms off, you know, the shock, the link, and the sway bar arm in the front. We got a lot of distance pulling down on this thing, but it just wasn't enough. When we set this up on the bench the first time, we needed to put the boot and the rubber on in place to collapse this, to do our measurement against our broken spring. And first time we didn't do that. Second time we collapsed a little more and the spring went up nice in place. Ryan's just trying to center this thing a little bit, but I think it's pretty good where it is. So, you know, don't break your new spring, Brian.
Yeah.
If you put grease on that, you wouldn't be doing this right now. But anyways. All right, so we're going to get our shock bolt together and try and get our links and arms back in place. And looks like we're pretty close with the link here, so we're going to start getting our bolts back in place. So you got a washer that goes in between the shock and the bottom of the arm here. So you got to be careful when you're catching these bolts. Make sure they go in straight all the way. The bracket's aluminum, the bolt's steel, and you don't want to cross thread it, so you got to make sure it's straight going in there. Spend some time doing that. Okay, Brian's tightening up the wires we took off the bracket to give us a little more room to pull down. You got one that's just a lot of threads.
Almost there.
Okay. All right, so now we're gonna get the 16mm and tighten these two up. So he's got the bolt started in there, and we're starting everything by hand to make sure when you look at the angle, it's coming down at an angle, but it's going straight into here.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for, so, yeah.
And you're putting this one together, there's some stuff in this that's angled, so you just gotta make sure the bolt's angled along with the hole, right, Steve?
Yeah, make sure it goes in with that angle. I don't want to strip this aluminum stuff out.
Yeah, it's kind of easy to do.
So it's going in. Brian doesn't want to use the gun. He likes to work out, so.
I use a gun for one thing. Dropping Steve's tools. It's good.
Okay, let's check the other one.
So just make sure you tighten the top. We just tightened it up.
All right, so we got our shock back on. We put our plastic cap on. We replaced our links while we were in here. We get the new coil spring back in, and we have everything tight. The two 16s are tight over here. The 16 is tight on the bottom here, and on the front we have our track arm back in over here. That's all tight, and we bolted our electrical connector back, bracket back on for the lines over here.
Yep.
Bolted this back on, and we got our sensor put in for the speed sensor. Everything's nice and clean in line. And we're gonna lower our screw jacks now and get the tires back on. Now wrap it up.